This is Karen with newclevelandradio.net, and it's time for Avoid the Maze. And this story really gets into that maze. I've been living in that maze now since, 1996. And the maze is about that world of autism that so many people do not understand. And my guest, Jimmy Clare, is going to tell you what it means to him. But as a parent of somebody on the spectrum, what it means to me is nobody seems to really want to understand. They want to look at autism as a disease, and it is not. It is a wide spectrum of different issues. So no two people are alike, even neurotypicals, and no two autistic people are alike. So, Jimmy, as I read your bio, I kept thinking, wow, you and my son, I think, wrote the same bio. A couple of his friends are the same way. So tell me a little bit about yourself. When were you diagnosed, and what did it mean to you and your family once you got the diagnosis?
So I'm a motivational speaker, Autism Advocate, author, and founder of CrazyFitnessGuy.com. So I like to say I was diagnosed in 3rd grade, even though my mom says 4th grade. But I like to say 3rd grade because I just remember leaving school early for all the tests and everything. And I was like, oh, I get to leave school early, sweet. Let me get the hell out of this contraption.
Right.
And when my parents got the diagnosis of me being on the spectrum, and they didn't treat me any differently. They got me the support that I needed, and over the years, they told me how much it was a pain in the ass to get the support. The school district fought on every single level, and I was like, you guys are just being a bunch of morons yourself. And I was like, of course I didn't say any of that, but I was like, but I remember my own IEP meeting that I was invited to. I was warned not to speak in there. I'm like, it's a meeting about me, right? And they're like, yeah, that's correct. And they're like, but you're not allowed to talk. And they some of these old timers and they don't want to hear what you have to say. I'm like,
Exactly. And
really?
the sad part about those IEP meetings, they are about you, and you should have a say because they're not medical people. Okay. They're educators. And the reality of it is we all learn differently. Okay. I struggled through school my whole life. Nobody has told me that I'm on the spectrum or I have a learning deficit or anything. I just struggled. And I finally figured it out when I went back to school in 2008. So for almost 30 years, I was out of school. And I started taking classes online. And I realized I did better online because I could dig deep into the stuff that I didn't know. And the stuff that I knew, I didn't have to keep repeating it over and over again. That's what those IEP meetings are about, is trying to make sure that you are educated in the best possible way for yourself. And yet they don't let you speak.
Oh, they did the opposite of that. I felt like I remember sitting at the head of the table and I saw both sides arguing, and it's like, I feel like I'm watching a political debate, and it's like, and there's no winners. And it's like, they're just pointing fingers, and it's like, no, this is best for Jimmy. No, this is best for Jimmy. And by the end of the meeting, I remember missing my art class that I loved art. I was so gosh darn pissed off. I even voiced it to my case manager and say, you couldn't pick gym class because like I was nearly obese for my age group, so I didn't care for gym, and not being like lazy or anything, but there's certain sports I couldn't do anyway because of my neck issue. I live with spinal stenosis every single day for 29 years, and they and these guys, and I was like, well, if they were playing football, you could have just dragged me out of gym class, but you chose
Right.
to drive me on my art class. And it's like, I wanted to tell all of them, it's like, you freaking all suck.
Yeah.
And like, but of course I didn't say any of that either, but I made that well apparent to my case manager. And I remember in 12th grade, after that whole big outburst in front of my case manager, I'm invited back to my IEP yet again. And this time they wanted to hear what I had to say. And it's like, oh, what a shock. And it's like,
Yeah.
maybe I need to speak up more, and maybe I'll annoy the hell out of somebody. And it was like, so now what do you want to say?
Exactly. So you, like my son and a couple of his friends that I have met along the way, you didn't get diagnosed until, my son was first grade. You said third or fourth grade. And what I've realized up until the day my son got diagnosed, he was accepted for everything he did. Nobody saw, anything unusual in his behavior. What got them to tell us that they wanted him tested was um, during a fire drill, in fact, he couldn't handle the noise. And so he hid underneath the desk and didn't want to leave. And as I said to the teachers, if that's his biggest issue, you'll be able to get him out. There's a way to talk to him to get him out of the building. But he was learning on time. He had friends. Everything was perfect. But when we came out of the doctor's office with the diagnosis, now all of a sudden, the kids that he played with last week, their parents basically said, don't go play with him. So he started losing friends. Did you go through something like that as well?
Well, I was quite the opposite. I had a small group of friends, but I remember being uh, dragged out of the classroom. Well, not physically dragged, but I was dragged out of the classroom for a social group to help me make more friends, even though I already had some. And it's like, so you're gonna try to help me make more friends? It's like, I thought I was doing a pretty damn good job, but I guess I'm not. And she didn't like, I don't think the lady liked my bluntness and everything. And so I get it, I needed to work on stuff, but I was in third grade. What more do you want from me, lady? It's
Right.
like a full-blown conversation. I mean, I didn't say any of that. It was just all in my head. But the reason why I got tested was because there was multiple people trying to work with me all at once. And so in the classroom, there were all these teacher assistants, and they all try to work at me at once. And I was like, well, one person said this, one person said this, one person says this, one person said this. It's like, who am I supposed to freaking listen to? The teacher, these 5 other people? I don't even. So I kind of had a mental breakdown and everything. And so I threw a pencil, and there's like, well, now you're going into the principal's office, and it's like, what student has never thrown a pencil before? And I was like, it didn't hit anyone, if I recall. And if I did, and it's like, it wasn't the sharp part. And it's like, and it's like, and I don't think I threw very hard that time. So, and I'm not making excuses. I know I should have thrown my pencil, but and it's like, well, 5 people shouldn't be working with me all at once.
Exactly.
And yet these people, like you said, are educators. And it's like, well, if you guys are educators and you know a lot of freaking crap, well, well, you guys didn't do a really good job of figuring out what autism is. And it's like, I'm not saying to be experts at it, but oh, well, this person doesn't seem to. And it's funny, it wasn't the first time that I had a mental breakdown and that caused it. It was multiple times. I think it was around the same exact time of the day too. And I would, if I was a teacher around that point, actually, you know, I think the teacher started figuring it out, but all the other ones were not figuring it out. And it's like, gee, we don't know why Jimmy's not cooperating. And like, really, you don't know why I'm not cooperating? And I was like, well, there's 5 people in front of me. I have no idea what's going on. And then it's like, and then you drag me out to these social group classes that happen so infrequently. And it's like, oh, every 4 weeks, here's one. And it's like, up every 6 weeks, here's one. I'm like, is there a schedule to this, or is it just random? Here's a random event today.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, it reminds me of the game that I play on the weekends. It's full of random events, and it happens at the most annoying time you could be on a quest, and all of a sudden you're in a random event. It's like, go the freaking hell away! I don't want
Yeah,
you.
exactly.
But then, yeah, they. And I remember because I threw the pencil, I got suspended for a week from school. I'm like, huh, I got suspended for throwing a pencil. I got granted for at home because obviously I shouldn't throw a pencil. But my parents, but like what other people said, like, what kid has never thrown something before?
Right. And
I
I
was like,
think and I think what the question is, and what you're telling me is that your meltdown came because you had too many people talking to you at once. Okay. And you don't even have to be on the spectrum to have a sensory issue. Okay. I never really did until I started wearing hearing aids. And I find that if I hear more than 2 people trying to talk at me at the same time, and especially if they're saying different things, okay, I can't respond. I mean, I'm a talkative person, I move around, but if that's happening, I basically freeze because I don't know what you're telling me anymore. And sometimes I feel like I really want to yell or do something outrageous. So yes, throwing the pencil was not a good thing, and you probably should have had some kind of consequence for it so that you would learn not to do it again. But they needed to learn how to communicate with you. And when you're telling them, I don't know who to listen to, that's a good time for people to step back and say, okay, all right, you're the one who's going to tell Jimmy what to do about this. And somebody else is going to tell you for another class. I know my son, when probably more in middle school to to junior high, um, my mother-in-law every Saturday night would go out to dinner with us. And she wanted her grandson to choose a place and be happy, any place you want to go. And if she just would have said that and let him come up with a place, he would have been fine. But what would happen is she'd come over to the house and she'd say, where would you like to go tonight? And she'd list 10 different restaurants. And now he's confused. It's like, I don't even know where they are. I don't know why you're talking to me about these 10. And then she'd say, well, then what would you like? And then she'd rattle off 10 different foods or something. I can't tell you how many of those nights that my husband went out to dinner with his mother and I stayed home with my son because he was overwhelmed. There was no good reason to take him out. But when she finally understood and would say, Alex, you choose what you want for dinner and where we're going to go. And he would do that. Now, most of the time it was McDonald's and not where the rest of us wanted to go, but there was communication. And that's what is so important here. So you made it through high school, obviously, even though
Barely.
you barely. When did you start being an advocate and speaking out and getting followers?
I started at the end of 2019. Is uh, my parents never used the word autism around me. I knew I was somewhat different in a good way or a different way uh, from my own IEP meeting. I didn't even know what it stood for at the time. I was like, great. All I heard was meeting. I don't want to sit there a damn meeting. Uh, and then there was a time, and I, and I didn't go. I kind of did some research on my own too, and I just like did random Google searches just to, uh, and then and then when I asked my parents if this is what I had, they said yes, because whenever if they ever used the word autism, I was either out of the house, I was at a friend's house, I was down in my basement and playing with my Legos, and I didn't have, I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't even listening to anything what they tended to say. It was, uh, it was like totally out of earshot. So and even my extended family, no one used the word autism. No one used it around me. They didn't want me to feel different in a bad way. They just want me to be part of the family and everything else. And they basically, yeah, I remember, and so in 2019, I started just as a self-improvement project in 2006. Yeah, 2017. I started my website. Yeah, I wasn't known as CrazyFitnessGuy back then. I was known for two others. One I'm not very proud of, and the other one, well, I can't say the name because it's still trademarked by a business, and I didn't know the difference between the trademark and
Right.
copyright. And we finally, so once I created my website, I just started writing it to just improve my writing and everything. And I was like, I wonder how I can keep improving my writing, but help others at the same time. So in 2019, I decided to just start advocating for people because I was like, well, maybe people are too intimidated to stand up for themselves. Maybe too many people are not saying anything. Like, I've seen like the times at my school, they didn't want to listen to what I had to say in my first IEP meeting. But then when I really, since I got really hooked on things, I repeat myself over and over and over again until somebody listens. And then finally, uh, then when somebody listens, it's like, oh, now you really, really care. And it's like, now you want to hear what I have to say. And it's like, I only bugged you like thousands of million times until like, and trust me, that has backfired multiple times on me. I had a few developers who told me to go scratch. They didn't want to help uh, help me anymore or anything. I'm like, hey, gee, you guys are nice. I guess I'll never recommend you guys ever. And so that's when I started my speaking part of my side of my business, because I know there's some people with autism who can't speak, and then there's others who can speak, but oh well, I can only speak around certain people, but I can't speak for myself.
Sure. Well, being an advocate is absolutely wonderful. And being an advocate should come from the person who's experiencing the spectrum, and you are. Um, And I know that when my son was evaluated, it was 1996. And in 1996, they proclaimed that it was 1 out of 150,000 were on the spectrum. Well, today it's like, I don't even remember the newest numbers, but it's much more than that. The last time I heard it was 1 out of every 43 babies born are on the spectrum. And so what that means is that this is the wave of the future. We're all going to have neurological differences in what we hear and how we do things. And I loved it when you were talking about, you taking me out of my art class. My art class is like what obviously you really were involved in and you enjoyed. And my son, it was music. And it would be like, he learned history so well through music. He just combined the two, and all of a sudden it's like, he could talk about anything in history. I understand teachers are busy in class. They can't provide all that one-on-one, but they have to see where the interest lies and let you develop in those areas. So do you still love art the way you used to when you were in school?
Yeah, and I'm still in college. I'm in college at the moment. I took 3 years off of after high school. I jumped 5 different majors, which annoyed the hell out of my parents.
Yeah.
Uh, but at the time, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I wanted my degree because I know if I'm kind of betting against myself of what I said in high school. It's like, I'm never going to go to college. And it's like, who needs it? Well, I was like, after 3 years, and it lasted for that long, it's like, hell, I'm going to go to college. I can't take these annoying odd jobs that I've been doing. And like your son, one of the things I remember, one of the things I wanted to say, I learned in like multiple different ways. I've learned, I'm a visual learner, but I'm also a hands-on learner. I'm also a person who can do stuff by somebody telling me something, but also repeating it again, but then also showing me at the same time along with the instructions. So, and I'm also so I'm a vision, audio, and hands-on kind of person. But I just need somebody to show me. It's like, hey, if you show me this, I can do this. And it's like, but you can't give it all the directions to me all at once because it will just overwhelm my brain. And I'll give you an example. I remember when I first started my podcast back in 2020. I read so many gosh darn articles. I was like, well, this hosting company is better. No, this hosting company is better. This hosting company is better. I'm like, I hate these kind of articles. And it's like, because it gets you thinking, it's like, well, does my hosting company suck? Or it was like, well, these so-called experts, but then when you realize, when you dig down into it, they're just affiliate links and they're just trying to get your money.
Right.
But yeah, I do miss my art classes. I've been pondering some to myself of if I can find something that can teach me how to draw on my Chromebook. I know it's not the same thing, but I don't have, I still live with my parents because my college is right up the road from me. Like, let's say within like a 5-6 minute distance.
Okay.
And then my other college I'm hoping to transfer to is literally right up the street from me. So it's like, why the hell would I move out of the house to move 40 miles, 40
Right.
minutes that way to drive 40 minutes this way makes no freaking sense whatsoever. So, so I've been trying to find ways to how I can incorporate art back in my life somehow. And even though I do a lot of, well, I mean, I do all the marketing for my business, I can't use those tools as something fun. I mean, I do have some fun with marketing, but then there's so many gosh darn templates I can just
Right.
edit. And this one is like, okay, I need to do something for myself that is not in these tools because I use them for my business. And I'm just like, is this work or is this fun? I am not sure anymore.
Yeah. Well, they say if you love what you're doing for your business, it really is not work. And I will tell you, um, again, referring back to my son, sports was his love. Um, we have the Cleveland Guardians here in baseball is his biggest sports love. Um, he went to work for them in 2018, loved everything he was doing, but he got to a point that he was at the top of what he could do. And just there wasn't another job at the Guardians. And so he started looking for other jobs in sports. And got a job, and it's in Dallas, Texas. And he knew that it was something he wanted to take. That meant he had to move out. And he got in his car, he packed up his car, he drove to Dallas, Texas. And he loves it there, and they love him. And he's using his creative mind in his business. And it's sad to me that my creative mind has always been in assisting others, guiding other people. And I always said that's what I wanted to do. But yet family and friends kept telling me, oh, no, that's not what you should be doing. Well, you know what? 10 years ago, I said, yes, it is. And that's how I got into podcasting. And now I'm coaching because we all need that guidance to take the next step. And I think you are providing that guidance for families who have someone on the spectrum, because there are so many things you can do instead of the teacher saying, no, this is what you're going to do. So,
And I just also want to say something else real quick. I remember, you know, I mean, I love what I do. I'm not a big fan of all the admin tests that I have to do on a regular basis,
right.
just because right now I'm going from, well, at my website hosting company, there's this feed that you're supposed to transfer this to my social media platforms, and it's not updating, and I'm not sure why. My hosting company doesn't know why. My third-party tools don't know why. And I'm like, does anyone know why? And my point is that I really like what I do, but I hate the troubleshooting stuff and everything. And I like being creative and everything. And I don't, and I really do like working in my and like I like working in Canva. I also like working in it used to be known as Crello, but now it's called Vista Create. I've been using those tools, but I just need an art tool that I can just draw in or something completely mindless, because like, and it's like, even though I like what I do, it just helps me mentally get back on track the next day with my business, because then I can say, hey, I got this idea because I stepped away from all this. But if I play around with something, it's like I don't have any. I remember I created this one banner for social media across platforms. I just did it in a hurry. I was like, I really don't like this design. So after a few weeks, maybe a month later, I created this new design. I love it so much better because I've had so many people reach out to me and say, you know, out of all of my social media feeds, you came up. And it's like, who the hell is this person? And it's like, it's so consistent across every single platform. And I was like, well, thank you. And it's like, I really do my best to make everything consistent. And but my point is that even though I like what I do, I know I need something different, so I'm not working the same tools every single minute, because then it's not a, hey, is this work or is this something fun? Because if it combines, I mean, I still, like I said, I like what I do, but in the off hours when I'm not doing what I'm doing, it's like, is this work or is this fun time? I'm not really sure anymore.
Okay.
And so I just need to differentiate. So it's like, this is a fun work task, but after hours is like, can I have something for me to unwind with?
Right. Absolutely. Well, I'm hoping somebody out there who's listening to this podcast knows more about the tools that you might need. And we encourage, if you can help Jimmy out in any way, that's great, because that's what we should be doing in this world. We should be helping each other out. Um, you know, we can't know everything ourselves. And that's one of the reasons I do this podcast, so that we can share information and help each other out. And Jimmy, you have been absolutely wonderful today. If you don't mind, I have someone who I'm going to ask to contact you. Okay. His name is Anthony Ianni. And I don't know if you've heard of Anthony, but Anthony is the first person who was on the spectrum, and he played basketball for the Big Ten at Michigan State University. And he won a ring 1 year while he was playing.
That's cool.
Anthony is phenomenal. And he does outreach work. So I want to put him in touch with you. Okay. Maybe he can give you some ideas, help you along the way, because nobody seems to know what those tools are except for you, Anthony, and others like the two of you, including my son. And you know what? You've got such a great heart. Let's continue to help you. And I mean, thank you for sharing today. I'm going to smile the rest of the day because of you. So I appreciate that.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And in our show notes, I'll have all your information so people can follow your podcast. They can connect with you. And so anybody out there who, wants to be smiling like I am today, you're going to want to contact Jimmy Clare, and he's from the great state of Pennsylvania. So,
I wouldn't call it great. It gets better.
Well, okay. Just nice state of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
But thank you again, and we'll talk to you again soon, okay?
Definitely.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.